It is another day today, and we are going to discuss another interesting topic, that is the endocrine system. The endocrine system, it is a system that consists of network of glands and organs that produce, store and secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream. These hormones are chemical substances that are being produced by specialized cells, mainly the endocrine glands, that regulate physiological activities in other parts of the body. That means they are being produced by these glands or these organs, and they will be transported to other parts of the body where they have to perform their specific functions. Next on our slide is the differences between endocrine and exocrine gland. The exocrine gland, these are glands with duct. A duct is a tube through which fluid flows. And we have the exocrine gland, which are ductless gland. The endocrine gland, when they produce their secretions, they are being secreted directly into the bloodstream. For them, they do not have a duct. That's why we refer to them as ductless glands. Number two, they discharge their secretion into the duct. For example, the pancreas, when it produces the pancreatic juice, that pancreatic juice is being secreted into the pancreatic duct. The sweat gland, when the sweat gland produces sweat, it is being secreted into the sweat duct. And in the case of the endocrine gland, they discharge their secretion directly into the bloodstream. For them, they do not have a duct. As we said, they are ductless gland. So what they do, when they produce their secretion, they secrete it directly into the bloodstream so that the blood can transport it to their site of action. The third one is that in the exocrine gland, these glands are present near the site of action. For example, the gastric gland is found in the wall of the stomach. When it produces the gastric juice is being secreted into the stomach. The sweat gland is found in the skin. When the sweat gland produces sweat, it is being secreted onto the surface of the body. But in the case of the exocrine gland, this gland may be present far away from their site of action. For example, the pituitary gland is found in the brain. It may produce, example, the follicle stimulating hormone or luteinizing hormone. These follicle stimulating hormone or luteinizing hormone, they will be transported into the testes or the ovaries where they perform their specific function. So if you can compare the distance that the exocrine gland its secretions has to be transported, they are being transported under a long distance. Therefore, comparatively, the endocrine glands are far away from their site of action when you compare it with the exocrine gland. And here, the secretion here, they have different name, not only enzymes. For example, the liver can produce what we call bile. The salivary gland can produce what we call saliva. Sweat gland can produce what we call sweat. Mammary gland can produce what we call breast milk. But in the case of the endocrine gland, this secretion collectively they are called hormones. An example of an exocrine gland are salivary gland, gastric gland, sweat gland, mammary gland, etc. Example of the endocrine gland, we have the pituitary gland, we have the thyroid gland, we have parathyroid gland, etc. Next on our slide is the differences between the nervous system and the endocrine system. The nervous system, it is fast. For example, if I touch a hot object, I can quickly drop it. But if the pituitary gland produces a hormone, that hormone has to be transported in the bloodstream to the testes, the ovaries, or other parts of the body where they perform their specific functions. And since they are moving in the bloodstream and the blood is not moving as fast as electrical impulses, comparatively responses in the endocrine system, it is comparatively slower when you compare it with the nervous system. The nervous system, it uses what we call electrical impulses to send messages. Based on the first difference that we have discussed, we have one similarity that they share in common. That means both react to stimuli. And number two difference between the nervous system and endocrine system is that the nervous system use electrical impulses to send messages, while the endocrine system, it uses hormones to send messages. They send these messages to specific organs or cells within the body in order to maintain homeostasis. The homeostasis is the maintenance of the constant internal environment of the body. In the nervous system, the organs are the brain, the spinal cord, and nerves. In the endocrine system, the organs are called glands, specifically endocrine glands. And here it uses what we call neurons in order to transport these messages to their site of action. In the case of the endocrine system, it uses what we call hormones in order to carry these messages to their site of action. In the case of the endocrine system, it uses what we call hormones to transport these messages to their site of action. And lastly, that is not part of this slide, the nervous system, its action is localized. For example, if I touch a hot object, I can quickly remove my hand from it. But in the case of the endocrine system, its action is being generalized. Since these messages are being released into the bloodstream, for example, when the pituitary gland releases what we call the follicle stimulating hormone or luteinizing hormone, which are being released into the bloodstream, they can be transported to other organs where they are not even having any function to do. So they just walk in the bloodstream like a crazy or mad somebody until the time where they get into the testes or ovaries where they have to perform their specific function. So for it, its action is being what? Generalized. So wherever we have receptors that can accept these hormones, it can stimulate them to perform certain function. So when we talk about similarities between the nervous system and the endocrine system, one, both react to stimuli. Number two, both help to maintain homeostasis. And number three, both are systems of the body that send messages. They send messages to specific organs or cells to perform certain functions. The fourth one is that the hypothalamus, it serves as a link between the two systems. That means the hypothalamus is part of the nervous system and it is also part of the endocrine system. That's why we say it serves as a link between the nervous system and the endocrine system. On this slide here, we have a diagram showing the various glands and their location. So the first one we have here, it is the hypothalamus, that is the master regulator of the endocrine system. And also we have the pineal gland, located in the brain that produces what we call melatonin that helps to regulate sleep and wake cycle. And we have the pituitary gland, which is found just below the hypothalamus. The pituitary gland, it is the master gland. That means it controls other glands. We also have the thyroid gland that is being located in the neck, specifically just below the larynx in front of the trachea in the neck. And we have the thymus gland that is being located in the chest cavity. We have the adrenal glands that are being located on top of the kidneys that we have. In that case, the adrenal gland, it is a pair. And we have the pancreas. The pancreas is found behind the stomach. And we have the ovaries. The ovaries, they are being located in the pelvic cavity. And we have the testes. The testes are being located in the scrotum. So let's start with the first one, that is the pituitary gland. But before we talk about pituitary gland, let me just remind you we also have the pineal gland. As I said, it is being located in the brain. It secretes what we call melatonin that is responsible to regulate the sleep and wake cycle. Now let's talk about the pituitary gland. This pituitary gland, it is being located at the base of the brain just below the hypothalamus. The pituitary gland, it is being divided into two lobes. We have the anterior pituitary gland and we have the posterior pituitary gland. These hormones here from 1 to 6, they are being secreted by the anterior pituitary gland, and the 7th and the 8th here, they are being secreted by the posterior pituitary gland. The connection between the anterior pituitary gland and the posterior pituitary gland, they are being connected by a blood vessel. But the connection between the posterior pituitary gland and the hypothalamus, they are being connected by a nerve. Now let's talk about these hormones that are being secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. We have the growth hormone that regulates growth. We have prolactin that stimulates the milk production, but it is not the one responsible for ejection of milk. It is the oxytocin that is responsible for milk ejection. So the letting down of that milk from the breast milk, it is being responsible by the oxytocin. But the production of that milk, it is being responsible by prolactin. And we have the thyroid stimulating hormone that will stimulate the thyroid gland in order to produce its hormones. And we have adrenocorticotropic hormone that stimulates the adrenal glands in order to produce their hormones. And we have the follicle stimulating hormone that will act on the testes and the ovaries in order to produce gametes. It will act on the ovaries to start the development of the ovum, and it will act on the testes in order to start sperm production. And we have luteinizing hormone. The luteinizing hormone, it causes what we call ovulation. Ovulation is the release of the egg from the ovary into the fallopian tube. The development of the egg is being stimulated by follicle stimulating hormone, but the release of that egg from the ovary into the fallopian tube, it is being caused by the hormone we call luteinizing hormone. The luteinizing hormone also causes the production of what we call testosterone. These are the 6 hormones that are being secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. Now let's talk about the 2 hormones that are being secreted by the posterior pituitary gland. We have the oxytocin, also called the love hormone. It is the one responsible for love, not the heart. Apart from that, the oxytocin stimulates uterine contraction. So during labor, it is the one that provides that powerful contraction, and it also helps in milk ejection, just like I said before. And we have the antidiuretic hormone that regulates the water balance in the body. This one has been discussed in the excretory system tutorial. You can view that one to have a better understanding of how the antidiuretic hormone regulates the water balance in the body. On this slide, this diagram shows all what I have explained in the previous slide. In here we have the pituitary gland. As I said, the pituitary gland here, it is being divided into two lobes. We have the anterior pituitary gland that is being connected with this hypothalamus above by a blood vessel. And I said the posterior pituitary gland, it is being connected to the hypothalamus by a nerve. And I said also that the anterior pituitary gland, it secretes 6 hormones, and the posterior pituitary gland, it secretes 2 hormones. It secretes what we call the thyroid stimulating hormone that will act on the thyroid gland in order to secrete its hormones. It secretes adrenocorticotropic hormone that will act on the adrenal gland in order to secrete its hormone. It produces prolactin that will stimulate milk production in female. It secretes growth hormone that regulates growth in cells. It produces follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone that they will act on the testes or the ovaries in order to perform certain functions that I have named before. The posterior pituitary gland produces 2 hormones, that is the antidiuretic hormone that will act on the kidney in order to regulate the blood water level of the body. And we have the oxytocin, also called the love hormone, that is responsible for love in humans or mammals. The oxytocin, it acts on the wall of the uterus during labor in order to provide that powerful contraction. And the oxytocin also stimulates the milk letdown. That means the coming out of that milk from the breast. Next on our slide is the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland, it is being located in the neck, just below the larynx, in front of the trachea. This thyroid gland, it is being stimulated by the thyroid stimulating hormone that is being secreted by the pituitary gland in order to produce its hormones. It produces hormones we call tyrosine, tetraiodothyronine, and calcitonin. These 2 hormones above, T3 and T4, collectively they are called the thyroid hormone. The body produces more of T4 than T5. It produces 90 to 95% of T4 and just 5 to 10% of T3. But the body prefers more of T3 than T4 because T3 is biologically more active than T4. So whenever the T4 are being produced, they are being converted into T3. The T3 or T4, they perform major functions in the body such as they stimulate the gut motility. That means they help in the movement of the food within the digestive tract by causing contraction of smooth muscles that are found within the wall of the digestive tract. and they also help in brain development, most often in children. They also help to regulate muscles and bones growth. That means they help to regulate growth of cells within the body, and also they help to regulate basal metabolic rate within the body. And lastly, they increase the heart rate. So when we have more of this one that is being produced, as the body needs more energy in order to undergo some of these activities, as I said, they regulate basal metabolic rate. The heart has to pump more blood, because in this blood, these cells that are undergoing this metabolic activity, they need nutrients, they need oxygen, they can have it through the blood that is flowing to them. So what the T3 will do in order to maintain the high metabolic rate, or in order to maintain the normal metabolic rate of the body, it will increase the heart rate. Deficiency of the thyroid hormone or excessive secretion of the thyroid hormone will lead to what we call goiter. That means it will lead to enlargement of the thyroid gland. So when the thyroid gland enlarge, you can see a large bulge out of the thyroid gland here. Most often you can see some people having something coming out here around the neck here that is bulged out, very large one. That is the goiter that I'm talking about. Next we have is the calcitonin. The calcitonin, it helps to decrease the blood calcium level. So how the calcitonin decreases the blood calcium level? It decreases the blood calcium level by causing the calcium that are found in the blood to move and be stored in the bones that we have. It will also cause the kidney not to absorb any of the calcium into the bloodstream, but mind you, excessive release of this calcitonin will cause the bone to be dense. It will also cause what we call kidney stone in the kidney. And there is one gland that is not found here, but actually it is found on this slide, but we cannot see it because it is found at the back of the thyroid gland. That gland is called parathyroid gland. It acts opposite to calcitonin. So what it does, it increases the blood calcium level. So the calcium that have been stored in the bones will cause them to move into the bloodstream, and it will enable the absorption of calcium from the kidney back into the bloodstream. It will also cause the absorption of calcium in the food we eat from the gastrointestinal tract into the bloodstream. So the parathyroid hormone produced by the parathyroid gland is acting opposite to calcitonin. The calcitonin is causing a decrease, while the parathyroid hormone is causing an increase in the blood calcium level.